Hello and welcome. My name is Adrena. I am the owner and accountant here at Accounting by Adrena. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the top 5 lessons I've learned starting my business. Now, if you are new here, welcome. Make sure that you are subscribed to my channel so you get notifications of when I send out new videos. I usually try to send out weekly videos. And I also have a weekly newsletter. If you aren't signed up, I'll go ahead and leave a link below in the description box. All right, let's jump right in. Now, the first lesson here is that curating the client experience isn't a one-size-fits-all. Now, when I first started my business, I thought, okay, I can have kind of like the same type of service that I would offer to, potential clients, and maybe we just add on like one thing and then another thing for like different tier levels. And what I quickly found out is each client is unique and different and all on their own. I couldn't just say like, here is a standard monthly bookkeeping agreement, although there are a lot of things that are very similar when it comes to like QuickBooks and transactions and expenses and customers and clients and vendors and all that kind of good stuff. But the way each person runs their business is so unique to them, and it's potentially very different from another person. And not to mention the fact that I have nonprofit clients, I have individual clients, and I have just regular companies. And so it kind of ranges all across the board. So I really needed to hone in and figure out how to curate the best client experience for them. Now, that is for them during a specific time. And if they end up growing and moving on, that is perfectly fine too. And that was all part of like my learning experience with curating the client experience. Now, for the second lesson, it's kind of a funny one because, you would think that sometimes people can actually read your mind when they can't. So my second lesson is what you say will be taken out of context. And it's not necessarily bad or good. This is just a neutral fact. It is what it is. And so a lot of times I find myself just making sure I'm saying exactly the right thing in my emails specifically, and then also when I'm talking to them. This may come off as like, give me a minute to think about it. Let me reply back to you. I think a lot of times people are going so quickly that they don't necessarily catch everything that you say. And sometimes it's easier for them to see it in an email. So usually with certain things, if I feel like it's really important, I not only verbalize it to the client in one of our check-in meetings, but I also follow it up with an email. I want to make sure that what I'm saying to them is landing. A lot of times when I'm in those meetings with my clients, we're talking about a whole variety of things that are happening within their businesses. And it can take your thoughts from here to here to here to here. And sometimes if I'm interjecting something, it's hard to really identify like if it landed or if they're still thinking through something else that we talked about previously. So that's why I always love to follow it up with an email. That way I make sure everyone's on the same page and what I said is what I said and not taking it out of context. I mean, it can work both ways too. I can definitely take something out of context from one of my clients as well. So that's why I always feel it's very important to make sure you have everything in writing. Now, my third lesson is a little bit different. I came from a very like corporate-like background, even though they were nonprofits, they were very large nonprofits, and there were a lot of system structures, deadlines in place. And so I was working within the confines of a deadline-driven environment. And then when I started my own business, I still had that mindset of, okay, here are my deadlines, and this is what I need to make sure that everything is running smoothly. So I self-imposed deadlines on myself. And of course, I'm using Asana for all of this. And Asana just makes it so easy to keep on those different tasks on a monthly basis, because bookkeeping is very much like a monthly type thing. And so there are, of course, weekly tasks or bi-weekly tasks, bi-monthly tasks, whatever you want to say. But most of the time, it's a monthly type thing. And keeping track of all of those different deadlines with different clients is really challenging. That's why I like to use Asana. I'll go ahead and link a couple Asana videos below because I cannot stop talking about Asana apparently. But what I wanted to say is for my third lesson, I learned that people are actually more concerned about themselves than they are of you. And so, like even when I'm thinking through this point, it's like I am so concerned about my own deadlines that I didn't stop to think like what my clients' deadlines are, you know? So it's always important to get on the same page with your client, because there are times where my self-imposed deadlines don't actually work for my client. Like maybe they're on vacation one week and they can't get back to me within 2 weeks. For whatever the case may be, you know, I find myself sometimes, okay, well, if I can't get to that task this week, then I'll move it to next week. But maybe next week doesn't work for them either. And then I have to wait a couple of weeks in order to get that task done. So for this lesson, I just learned to make sure that I'm keeping on top of my deadlines when it comes to my clients. So for like, this is an example of how kind of this plays out. So specifically for my nonprofit clients, I try to find to figure out when their board meeting dates are, because that's essentially when they're going to need their financials to be done. And for these types of board meetings, they usually like the financials done a couple weeks ahead of time or even a week ahead of time. So then I have that in my mindset. Okay, this nonprofit has this board meeting date, you know, mid-September, mid-November. And so I need to get done with my stuff a couple weeks before that. So it's always good to kind of be in step with your client and make sure that your deadlines align. Now, for my fourth lesson, I learned is that planning is the most important thing I can do. Now, it's also the point that actually needs to be the most versatile. Similar to like my third point, my third lesson in making sure that you're aligning your deadlines with your clients is that, you know, as much as I can plan, there are still things that change down the line. There's a lot of unknown when it comes to working with people. You know, that's just a known fact. Life happens and things get in the way and we get distracted, or we have a bad day, or we're on vacation, or life throws us a curveball and we have to kind of like readjust our goals and what's happening that year or what's happening that quarter. Like for me specifically, every year, at the beginning of the year, I like to plan out kind of like what this quarter is going to hold, what this quarter is going to hold, and, you know, so on and so forth. So I have my quarterly goals that I can kind of like work towards each quarter, each month, whatever the case may be. Now, that plan that happened at the beginning of the year is for that particular point in time. Okay, so if all things remain consistent, then yes, I can work towards these goals for the whole year. But if someone, you know, shifts something, or let's say I lose a client, or let's say I gain a client, it's going to change the whole trajectory of my goals for that whole year. However, it's still good that I have a plan. It's still good that I'm thinking about the future, because I want this to be the long game, you know? And so that's what I learned early on, because in the beginning, you're just kind of like floundering. You're just like, I think this is going to work. You're just kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall and trying to see if it sticks. And for whatever does stick, you kind of keep going with that. And so, you know, that's kind of how you create your plan is, okay, you try this. Let's say it works, let's say it doesn't work, but whatever the case is, that's information for you. And that's good information to help you plan your future goals, your future months, your future years. Now, my biggest takeaway, my biggest lesson that I've learned starting my business is there is more to life than client work. And yes, client work pays for my business. It pays for my contractors. It pays the bills. But is there more to life than just client work? Yes, there is absolutely more to life than just client work. And, you know, for the longest time, when I first started my business, I really put client work first ahead in my life. ahead of everything else. At that time, I was also working a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job. So I would fit in client work in all of the gaps in between. So maybe before work, maybe during lunch, after work, on the weekends. And that doesn't really lend well to a good work-life balance. And having that mindset going into your business isn't going to be like the most beneficial for you in the long run. It's not going to be the one that's going to have a positive mental health impact for you. And so what I want to say is that learning that was the hard lesson in life, because that really took a toll on pretty much everything. Time with family, time with friends, like any other hobbies that I might have done. And then even on myself, that definitely wore on my body. And so I have been spending the past few years trying to slowly work my way out of that. It's definitely an untangling that needs to happen, but giving yourself hard boundaries is one place to do it. So that would, like, an example of that would be, I'm only going to be working Monday through Friday from 10 to 5, and that's it. Anything else that comes in after that, then that'll have to wait until the next day. Anything that comes before that will have to wait until I'm back at my desk. And so implementing those types of boundaries in your life is going to be really beneficial to you. It's going to have a positive impact for you in the long run, and especially taking vacations. Big fan of vacations over here. I'm actually leaving for a vacation tomorrow. And so, yeah, just making sure that you're implementing those times where it's an extended time off, not just the weekend, but we definitely need that unwind and refresh and reflect time. And I definitely am looking forward to this vacation. Like, some of the things that I like to think through is what's working right now, what's working really good, what's not working so good. And then kind of taking that information back home, once I return from vacation, and really implementing, kind of like going full force into what's working, and then like putting the brakes off of what isn't working for me. So anyway, that's my, video for you guys. I hope you found this helpful. What is one lesson that you have learned starting your business? I would love to hear back from you guys down in the comments below. And that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.